Hello, hello, hello. We are back to do a match preview. Ron is having technical difficulties after his week off last week, so I don't know what's going on with that. Mark Fishkin, from Seeing Red podcast is here to give us all the wonderful Red Bull news and reports. So say hello, Mark.
Hello, hello.
With that said, we had a draw last week. I know you guys lost last week. So do you just want to tell us a little bit about your game, I guess, last week and from the prior games? Because I know you're, one win, six losses?
Yeah, so last week the Red Bulls were out west. They played two matches on Wednesday in San Jose against the Earthquakes, where New York controlled the match for the first 40 minutes, and then a poor clearance in the box led to a ball going through the mixer for the first goal, and then Shea Salinas to the head of Wando for the second, and that was kind of all she wrote. And then in Colorado, in a blizzard with the orange ball on the field, New York was unable to prevent Jermaine Jones, who is quickly becoming a bogeyman for the team, from punishing the Red Bulls again. New York actually scored a goal, which hadn't happened in about 3 or 4 games, but gave up a late goal in the 81st, 84th to Dominic Badji in the snow, and find themselves 1-6. And Red Bull fans are baffled and frustrated, as is the team, as is the coach. So we're hoping that good things will happen at home this weekend.
And I know after the wonderful season you guys had last year, and I think there's one you had last year. This is probably not the start you were expecting. So what is the cause of these problems?
Yeah, so the cause of the problems are a couple-fold. First, the team at one point was missing 4 center backs that were all injured. We've lost Damian Paranel in last year's playoffs to an ACL injury. Matt Miazga, of course, has been transferred to Chelsea. Ronald Zubar has been injured in and out through most of his Red Bulls career. So he took a hamstring pull, and then Gideon Ba from the Ghana national team also had a hamstring pull. In fact, there was a single match where the 3 Red Bulls came up lame. Those two, and then Gonzalo Verón, our DP from Argentina, who plays as a winger and a striker. So the team has effectively been playing without 4 starters and both of their center backs through most of the year. And then the other piece of the puzzle is that Bradley Wright Phillips, who has scored 44 goals in MLS the last 2 seasons, cannot buy a goal this year in 2016. He is 4th in the league in shots on goal with 12 in 7 games, and he cannot squeeze one past the keeper. So without your number 1 scorer scoring, and with most of your central defense not your first choices, it's been very, very difficult for New York to get anything done.
All right, and what about Kleshtin? He's the only one that's played in any kind of form, huh?
Well, I know the wonderful love affair that the Orlando City fans have with Sacha Kljestan after that incident that I think awarded him an honorary Oscar last year that led to a red card. And, of course, Kljestan's bomb against you guys in the Citrus Bowl, I'm sure, still stings. Kljestan is one of a group of talented midfielders that at times has played well, and as times has suffered. To be perfectly honest with you, he had a pretty poor game last week. He actually came over to the traveling support of Red Bull fans that had made the entire West Coast trip with the team, and was caught on video apologizing to the team for the poor results and promises that it would get better. So, Kljestan is an important guy on the team, as is Dax McCarty and Felipe, as our Mike Grella, who's filled in for the injured Verón. And Lloyd Sam, frankly, hasn't shown a lot of the spark that Red Bull fans are used to seeing from him. So, look, when you're 1-6, you're 1-6, no matter how well you're playing in 1-6, and the Red Bulls have to find a way to regain their form. And the crazy thing is, it's really the same team. I mean, it is the same guys that won the Supporters' Shield 6 months ago. So everyone around the Red Bulls are baffled and hoping that they can start playing like the team that we know.
All right, and you speak of all the injuries and the midfielders not maybe in the best form. So what is your starting 11 going to look like this week?
Yeah, I mean, I don't see the starting 11 is going to look terribly different than it's looked for the last little while. Your listeners, your viewers may not be aware that Luis Robles this past weekend set the MLS all-time record for consecutive 90-minute performances with 113. So he will be in net, I feel very, very strongly, on Sunday night. We should have a back line that probably will show Kamar Lawrence on the left, although he didn't practice today. Jesse Marsh said that everything was fine. He was just taking a day off. Ronald Zubar and Carl Ouimet should match up in the center of defense. And on right, it could be Chris Duval. It could be Sal Zizzo. Duval has worked his way back finally after a horrible injury last year. So one of these two guys will play. The midfield five, given Verone's absence, should be the top lineup, which is Dax and Felipe in the defensive mid, Grella, Kleshchen, and Sam left to right as the attacking mids, and then Bradley Wright Phillips, the 2014 Golden Boot winner, will be up top for the Red Bull. So that's the lineup.
All right, and Ron, as most Orlando City fans know, our story has been much different than Red Bulls this year. We were the only undefeated team until we lost to Philly, and then we had a draw, at home in a game that, frankly, I think we deserve to lose, but that might be an unpopular opinion. So, what do you have any final, just quick recap thoughts about last week's game?
First of all, can you hear me?
Yes, and welcome,
Okay,
by the way.
God, I've been having so many problems tonight. Anyways, yeah, that last game, I don't know if it's fair to say they deserve to lose. They definitely deserve to win. So I agree with you there. But, I mean, it was a tale of two halves. They played miserably in the first half. And in the second half, they got a little better after substitutions and a change of tactics. But it's really hard to understand what you're going to see from Orlando City from week to week. The good news is I think we could see our strongest lineup of the year this weekend. If you get Higuita back there paired up with Seren and you have Winter, Kaká, Molino, Larin up top, and your normal defense, assuming Ramos gets back. I mean, you agree? I mean, that's about as full strength as it gets.
Yeah, I'm not so positive that Ramos comes back. I didn't think Alston was the worst, but we did lose a lot on the attack from the right wing spot with Alston. I mean, I thought Alston played a fairly steady game. I didn't think he was terrible, but at the same time, I think Ramos, his attacking and his explosiveness forward was a really big, there was a big gap in talent there. So anyway, so where do you think that let's just assume Red Bulls are gonna show up. I mean, I don't know what else to say because they haven't been scoring other than last week. So where do you think that they'll cause us some problems, Ron?
Well, I mean, I really think they could cause us problems all over the pitch. I mean, there's still a lot of talent there, obviously, and one of these days, all those shots and those shots on target are going to go in, and you just hope that it's one more week before that starts happening because, Red Bulls are. I mean, they're that good. It's so bizarre how poorly they're playing. Obviously, they took a midweek game. I think that they didn't play some starters, so I kind of discount that. But sooner or later they're going to turn it around, and you just got to hope it's delayed by another week. But what I really think teams need to do to us, I think they need to beat us in the air, or at least cross the ball a lot, because I think Tommy Redding can be suspect to that. I don't know if the Red Bulls want to play the ball in the air a lot, but I think that's a way that teams have not been exploiting us, but they really can. New England started throwing a bunch of crosses into the box, and eventually they got Bunbury on the end of one. So I think that would be a tactic to try to exploit our defense, because if you just try to go through the middle with us, I think that's our strength in our spine, especially if you have Higuita and Seren there. So I think if the Red Bulls can use some width and spread Orlando City out, I think they could have some success.
All right, and Mark, what do you think the best way Red Bulls will cause problems against us?
Well, I mean, the crossing game is a big part of Red Bull's offense. I'll be honest with you. Sadly, we talk about Wright Phillips and his inability to convert. He's also been getting the ball far too far away from goal. So if New York can effectively work the wings, if they can get the wingbacks overlapping as Jesse likes to do, right, and play the high line, high pressing game, I think hopefully some chances are going to get generated. They're not necessarily a team that goes and plays up the middle with those diagonal balls. That's not really oftentimes what you have happen, although Kleshin has been known to make that happen. You've got Mike Grella being dangerous anytime he gets the ball. He's got so much individual flair. He can turn a defender really, really easily. So we'll see. I mean, again, I think simply reverting to 2015 form, and frankly, the form that they've shown through a lot of the last few years as one of the constantly contending teams, is important if they're going to make a dent. A lot of newer Red Bull fans have never seen anything like this from the team. The last time they missed the playoffs was 2009, and that's a long time ago. So
Yeah.
This is a team that traditionally plays really well. They're a solid team in the regular season, and let's be perfectly honest, with a win, they're back at the line. So the East is so poor that it's not really going to take a whole lot for New York to start looking like the contender that Red Bull fans know they are.
And so we got Kaká back 3 weeks ago, and I think he's had two really good games and a pretty poor game against Philadelphia. And I want to discard the poor game against Philadelphia. I think he was played out of place, and I think the tactics overall in that game were pretty bad. So I'll ask Ron, how do you think that Kaká can attack Red Bull's defense, and then you can take it over, Mark, and tie up any loose ends about the defense and what they need to do to slow down Kaká.
Well, I think Kaká can attack you a lot of different ways. What we've been doing when we've been struggling, and Heath did this against New England, is we've been putting Kaká out on the wing, on the left wing, which I would prefer him stay in the middle. But teams are affording him a lot of space out there, and if they're going to let him just dribble the ball into the box and just back off him and let him get into the box, he either eventually figures out and goes left and he'll cross it, or right and he'll try to shoot far post. And I don't know why teams are giving him so much space. Obviously, Kaká is a great player and all that, but he's not the quickest, fastest player anymore. So I'm not sure. I think they're giving him a little too much respect. But if Kaká's in the center, and he will be in the center of the pitch for probably the first 60 minutes at least, it's really his chemistry with Molino. If New York can kind of get in the passing lanes there and keep those two separated, I think they could have some success. But really, in our attack, it's going to all come down to Larin and Larin's positioning, and Kaká will find a way to work off of Larin. Even if he gets frustrated with Larin a lot. The big changes in that New England game was when Larin came on. He's so good in the box, and he positions himself so well, and he makes little runs into space that opens himself up for those crosses, and it causes teams so many problems. He looks really clumsy doing it, and he can miskick the ball an awful lot. But the way he gets open and the way he provides space for players like Kaká and Molino to work off him, that's where the attack is really strong.
Mark?
I mean, when you talk about a player of Kaká's ability, and you talk about the leaky nature of New York's backline over the last the entire season, I'm sure Kaká is salivating. Zubar can be a very, very physical player, and he's going to have to really kind of skirt that line between asserting himself and making it go. I don't know if you see Dax playing further back and closer to the back line in an attempt to nullify Kaká. The key for the Red Bulls is just scoring first, because one of the things that's happened is, obviously they've scored in only 2 of their 7 games to date. A team scores first on New York, and then they put 8 players in the box, and that effectively nullifies the game. So if Orlando scores first, I shudder to think what the final score will be. If New York scores first, I think we're going to have a game. So they're really going to have to throttle Kaká and make sure that he feels pressure with New York's high press every single opportunity he gets to touch the ball, and make life pretty miserable for him.
Mark, I have a quick question for you. I haven't watched every Red Bulls game. I watched a couple of them. But is this a team where if Orlando City were to go up early, like you said, is it a confidence thing? Are they going to melt down? Is that why you see the game? It could be a long night at the park, or is
Yeah, I
that not?
mean, sure. I mean, one of the things that we've seen. I mean, listen, Red Bull Arena is usually a fortress. The team won 13 of 17 games there last year. 12 of 17 games. They only lost twice last year at home. They've lost twice this season at home. And so when you think about the nature of the team, they're just so desperate to have a good result. They went 4 games without scoring a goal before Zubar got a header in the snow in Colorado on Saturday night. So the team is just having such trouble scoring. And Bradley has been so bewitched this season that I think it's definitely a confidence thing if they go down early. Not just if they go down early, but if they go down early and Orlando does what so many teams do against New York with their high press is, as I said, pack the box and basically deny any sort of possession from 20 meters out of goal. And that's it, frankly, and that's been it. So for New York, breaking through, even at times last season when the team was up a man, which happened, as we know, in the Citrus Bowl last year, and it happened a number of times, it was very, very difficult for New York to actually generate goals in those situations. It was a little strange. It would seem kind of obvious that New York would be able to exploit, but they had a real hard time with it. Also in the Open Cup against Philly when they got knocked out in penalty kicks, they had a man up for quite some time, and Philly just played pack the box and counter, and that seems to be the way to beat the Red Bulls.
Well, we tried to back the box against Philadelphia, but it didn't really work playing for a draw. So, Ron, I mean, I don't particularly see us doing that even if we get up a goal just because of how poor we did it against Philadelphia.
Well, if we have Higuita in there, no, I expect us to be much more assertive and try to take the game to Red Bulls. If if Adrian Heath gets handicapped with a Carrasco back there or Notarino, although he might be suspended, then you don't really have much of a choice. I mean, I don't think Adrian Heath wanted to sit back against New England Revolution, but in the first half, Orlando City just wasn't as good, and they didn't have the midfield, the athletes in midfield to cope. So, but I think with this lineup in full strength, I think I would really like to see them go up there to New York and really go toe to toe with them because we know they can be exploited defensively. So I don't see the point of sitting back too much. I think you go after them and you try to get that first goal, and if you get that first goal, I think things become a lot easier.
Well, I just thought we were really bad in the first half. Not that we didn't have the lineup, but we just turned the ball over. We were so sloppy last week, and I think that if we're going to go to New York and be sloppy, I think that it might be the end of their poor run of performance, to be honest, because Notarino's kicking the ball to New England players like repetitively over and over. I think it happened 4 or 5 times in the first half.
Yeah, I agree. We'll have to clean it up, and I think it's going to be a real test up in Red Bulls. I don't think you sit there and look at the standings and go, they're 10th. This is going to be easy. There's no road game in MLS that's easy, and I expect a good effort from Red Bulls. I mean, they're due. I mean, if you want to say that, but they are due to turn it around, and I'm scared that it could be this week.
All right, and Mark, other than you're the big name players on Red Bulls, who's somebody that a casual Orlando City fan might not know of that they should absolutely keep an eye on?
Well, you may see some of the youth core that has gotten starts over the last couple of weeks. 17-year-old Tyler Adams, homegrown player who played and scored in the International Champions Cup match against Chelsea last summer, made his MLS debut against San Jose, played a half. Would have played more if New York wasn't down at halftime, so you might see him. Very smart player, really put himself out. 20-year-old Alex Mule, homegrown player who left Georgetown early to come, New York City native, played 90 minutes against Colorado, and was at many times the most energetic player on the team for New York. Couldn't generate a goal himself, but played very, very well. So those are 2 up-and-coming players for New York that Orlando City fans may see on Sunday night.
And are they both wingers?
Mule is a winger forward. Adams plays more towards the center.
Okay. And Ron, I thought that during the New England game, Winter had a solid half, but our subs just like you had mentioned it earlier, how the subs came on and it changed the whole game at 60. And I rewatched the game today, and I was thinking that we were just so lame, and then Molino and Laren have to come on. So if we're just looking lame against New York and we're going to get a Baptista sub or a Rivas sub, how do you think that our subs would fare this week in an opposite minute disbursement as last week?
Well, this I don't think you bring on Baptiste and hope for much other than throwing a big body into the box. I don't know that he offers more than that right now. Laren's going to be your guy as long as he's fully fit to go, which he will be. He'll go 90, and Baptiste is there for insurance. I don't think he's really there to get us that game-winning or game-tying goal. But I think if you have Winter and Molino up there, I think that Orlando's much more capable of having possession. Rivas is more of a counter-attacking player, and he's not really great in possession. So, he would be brought on, I think, if they needed a goal really bad or if someone was wearing down. But other than that, I think with Red Bulls and all the talent they have, I think a Winter Molino is probably your best bet, because Winter will give you that good defensive shift out there, and then when he tires out, you can look to bring some fresh legs on. But this should be a 100% Orlando City full strength lineup. So it'll be a good test, and it'll be kind of a good marker to see how good this team really can be.
All right, and do either of you have anything generally that we may have not covered before we do score predictions?
Nope. No, I think I've certainly covered everything going on in Red Bull land.
All right, Mark, be our guest. You can go first.
Yeah, I'm going to call it a 2-2 draw. I think we know that you guys have been all about the draws this year, but I think hoping that Bradley finally gets on track and is able to put one in the net, because I think if he does, I think a huge weight is going to come off of his back, and I think the team's going to be better for it. I don't see a team, again, playing with a little bit of a makeshift defense. Carl Ouimet is a good young man, but I've yet to see just how strong he's been. So I think 2-2 would probably be pretty fair. I think New York gives up one late to deny grabbing all the points.
All right, Ron?
That's a heartbreaking way to do it, too. That's I know you said 2-2, but in my own podcast that I did earlier today, I said 2-2 as well. I think a point on the road, no matter where you're playing, is a good result. So I think if Orlando City, I think as long as they don't get down, I think if they get down early, then New York might run away with 3 points. But if Orlando City can get the first goal, then they're looking good, and I think they'll take a point. I think Laren gets back on track, and I think you might see a shot from distance from Seren. Maybe that's the one that ties it up in the end.
Well, New York's allowed 2 or more goals in 6 of the 7 games that they've played. Kyle Laren somehow always finds goals in New York, whether it's versus Red Bulls or versus NYC. And I think it's usually a hat trick. So I'm going to go with a Laren hat trick against a leaky Red Bulls defense. Whatever we give up on the other end, maybe it'd be 1 or 2. That's fine. I still think that we're going to win. So I got 3-2, and I got a Laren hat trick. And that's all I got. So, Mark, thank you again. You want to tell all of my viewers where they can find you if they're looking for Red Bull information?
Sure. So on a weekly basis, since 2010, we've produced the Seeing Red podcast here in New York. We drop tomorrow with the aforementioned Alex Mule. We have a great interview, and of course, me along with Eric Giacometti give our preview and look into the match. You can find it on iTunes or Stitcher or seeingredny.com. We just celebrated our 250th show last time out, so we're starting our next. Thank you. So we're starting our next 250 shows this week.
All right, and Ron, you can shout out yourself. At City Soccer Talk, citysoccer.com. Everybody knows that, though. But thanks for having me every week. It's been a difficult day. My podcast had lots of problems. I went in and out about 3 times on this one. But thanks, everybody, for listening. And thanks, Mark, for coming on.
That's my pleasure. Right.
And that's all for our time. We thank you for your time. Peace out.
See you guys.